All right, guys, welcome back to the next episode of the Grand Prairie PD podcast. I'm your host, Nate, here with
Yes, sir.
Katie. That was supposed to be Katie.
Yes, sir.
And I am here with Officer Fidel. Although your name in my phone changed for some reason. Why is that?
That's because I have my phone as my call sign, Castro, when I used to be overseas, like Fidel Castro. My last name is Rodriguez. Sorry.
You know, I don't know if I had someone. I was texting Max. I was like, I need to ask you something. I don't know what it was. And I just combed my phone. I was like, I don't know Fidel's. And of course, Castro was the other one. I was like, what are the odds? One of like 7 Rodriguez's I know, his name is Castro, which happens to be the last name of Fidel. I was like, what are the odds that these are just two completely unrelated things? And sure enough, it was you.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've been living with that joke all my life because my first name was Fidel, so I figured, why not? And then the Apple software, they just automatically, I think you have saved Castro.
I didn't like that.
They just automatically save it on your phone like that.
Yeah.
Like my computer, my iPad, or my MacBook, it literally, I put Castro in the very beginning, so now it synced everything, and now everything is Castro. So
That's awesome.
That sucks. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I felt very violated. I felt like when people come home and they get their apartments broken into and things are tossed around, they're like, yeah, I just feel icky. I opened my phone. I was like, this is a guy named Castro. I've never named somebody named Castro on my phone.
Well, it's the same thing with all your guys. I do nicknames or I do whatever I think your name's spelled like, and then the automate says, this is the preferred. And I'm like, okay. And then I forget that I clicked that, and now I don't know who it is, and I have to look at the picture, and I'm just like, dang it.
Yeah.
Because it updates for you guys.
So you have pictures in your phone of the people you calling?
No, I don't.
Oh.
Now they do. If you saved it on your phone.
So he doesn't understand it. So Apple is a company that was founded in the early 90s, late 80s probably. Mm-hmm. They've done a lot of advances in technology and whatnot, and eventually they got to the point where phones communicate with each other. And so when I change my profile picture on my phone, it'll just change in your phone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Whatever.
It messes you up.
He's a green bubbler.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Don't know what that is either. Green bubbler.
Why did your parents name you Fidel?
Oh, because I'm actually Fidel III.
Okay.
My grandfather was Fidel. No. My grandfather was Fidel Agosto Rodriguez. My dad was Fidel Jr., and then I'm Fidel Antonio. So I'm Fidel III.
Very cool.
But everybody in my family called me Antonio.
Yeah.
So at school I went as Fidel, and then at home I would go as Antonio. So it's kind of weird because people are like, why are people calling you different names? And I'm like, they tried to keep Antonio when I went to school, but this one English teacher when I was in 3rd grade couldn't say it, and she tried to change it to Tony, and my mom was like,
change it to say Antonio?
Yeah, to say Antonio. She couldn't say Antonio, so she tried to change it to Tony.
And
my mom was like, I went to El Paso, Texas, but apparently it was an English teacher who couldn't say it. That's the story I was told. And my mom was like, he's not Italian, don't change it to Tony, so say Fidel. If you can't say Antonio, say Fidel. So
it's
I got stuck.
some just under the surface racism there.
It probably was. It was in the late 80s, early 90s, probably. Yeah. Talking about racism, I'll never forget this. I was in 10th grade. It was Irvin High School in El Paso, Texas. Mm-hmm. I walked in, to my English class, and my English teacher straight up came up to me. She goes, "Hey, guess what, Fidel? I have a treat for you. We have I have a special assignment we have to do for one of your boys." And I'm like, "From one of my boys?" And she's like, "Yeah, we have a Mexican poet that we're gonna do poems off of. But I'm Puerto Rican." And she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you guys were all the same." And the entire class was like, I can't believe she just said that to you. And I was like, this is my English teacher educator. And I was like, yeah, no, we're not all the same. And I just went sat down. I sat there just thinking about this all day.
You just do it you can't say Antonio.
It was no, this was years later in high school. This wasn't in 3rd grade, but this lady was and I was like, what the heck? I was like, I can't believe she just said that. This is a person supposed to be educated, has a higher education than I do.
Got up
I was like, wow.
Yeah, she's in El Paso. How do you not?
Yeah. Well, actually, this was in New York, Brockport, New York, when I was in 10th grade. So I was an
The
Army
way you
brat.
tell stories sometimes, man.
Wait, I'm confused. I thought we was in West Texas. And
No,
El
so here,
Paso.
let me clarify everything right now. I was an Army.
Unlie real fast.
I got no, not unlie. All my stories, because I was an Army brat. I went to 9 different schools my whole entire life, 4 different high schools in a 2-year period.
Dang.
So I'm accustomed to moving around. My dad, he joined the Army when I was like 1. And I was in Puerto Rico still. I was born in Puerto Rico. And I didn't leave Puerto Rico till 4 years old because my dad joined the Army. And then we just went everywhere. His last duty station was El Paso, Texas, because it was Fort Bliss was the base that was there. And then he got out, and we stayed there for 13 years. But I went through like so many different elementary schools in that time frame. Went to high school my 9th grade year, changed 2 high schools, then moved to Vegas. And then from Vegas, I went to New York. So I literally went to 9 different schools my whole entire life.
Do you have any friends that you talk to?
Nope. I have 3 friends. I have 3 friends that I keep up with in my high school because they all joined the military. That's why. So I got a buddy who's a Sergeant Major Ranger, and the other one is the Navy Corpsman.
Yeah.
So those are the only 2 dudes that I ever keep up with. Yeah. Out of like the 15 dudes we used to hang out with, and like party with, only those 2 dudes I keep in touch with because of the fact that we were military.
See, and the way you tell stories just confuses me sometimes.
Hey,
Because
man, it's my
I thought you
Spanish.
said it was 3.
Huh?
You said
3
it was
friends.
3.
I did.
Friends. And you just said it's only 2 now.
No, it was did I say 3? That's what I meant, 3.
Buddy,
I don't know, bro. I don't know, man.
I hope you never get accused of something and have to like sit for an interview.
I'm just
Write it down.
Because I would know you. I would know
English
you're.
is my second language.
I would know you were innocent, and I'd be sitting in an interview and be like, "Guys, you don't understand. This is just the way his mind works." Be nice to him.
It's just all over the place.
Yeah.
It is.
I'll figure it out.
It's all right.
We had some.
Okay. So, back in New York,
Okay.
that's where you grew up.
No. I grew up in El Paso, Texas for the majority of the time.
Okay.
I graduated
he
from
went
high
to
school.
New York.
I was in Rochester. They don't consider us New Yorkers. Rochester is like an hour from
Canada?
Yes, Canada. Or what's that? Niagara Falls.
Oh, okay.
So if you look at it on the map, it's way up.
Is that near Fort? Is it Drum? Maybe Fort Drum.
I don't know any
No.
military bases in New York.
We were up at some. We flew into New Jersey. We were in New York for like 12 hours or something. Went for like a month of training. It was like 20, 30 minutes from the Canadian border. And it was some base up there. I forget. I think it was Fort Drum. But it was cool.
Okay.
It was nice. It was weird. We started off like the 2 weeks before summer. And like it was weird, man. It was like freezing cold. And then the day like June 21st hit, it was just miserably hot the rest of the time there. It was weird.
In New York?
Yeah.
Wow. Upstate, man, it was like gorgeous for like 5 months, and then the rest, it was like, that's the first time I
Just
ever heard
cold
of lake effect snow. Like, I didn't even know that was a thing.
Lake effect.
So it's basically the temperature of the lake that the cold air, somebody explained it to me, but because of the lake that's close to it, you get like 6 feet of snow coming at you because from the lake itself. It sucks.
That's wild.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Like I came from Las Vegas, living in El Paso, desert life, and then up there, I laugh here because in Texas you get 1 inch of snow, and schools shut down, state gets shut down.
If you put 1 inch of snow in the forecast, things shut down.
That's what I'm
Doesn't
saying.
matter if it happens.
That's what I'm saying. And then here, and then New York, there has to be literally a whiteout where you can't see your hand in front of your face because they're so set up and ready to go with the dump trucks that it has to be a blizzard for you to cancel school and work.
Couldn't you imagine going to like typing
or the flu
as your first class?
True.
You got to go to typing as your first class, and you're outside in a blizzard.
Oh yeah, it's terrible.
KD, you're typing 5 words a minute. Yes, ma'am. I'm still throwing out icicles.
Oh man, it's when I was at the time in high school, I was excited to see snow because I really see that much snow. Yeah. So I was like, heck yeah! But that changed real quick when I had to shovel it out of my driveway. I was like, this sucks.
Yeah.
This is not fun at all. Yeah.
So your dad said he was in the Army, moved all around. A lot of kids, whenever they grow up that way, it's not the easiest way to grow up. It's not necessarily bad, but it's just not the easiest. A lot of kids kind of shy away from the military experience after that. Obviously, you went the opposite route. Why was that?
It was more like sticking it to the man. It was because me and my dad, my dad died when I was 12. So it was more like you know what, I'm still gonna, me and him had our things, even though at that young age, he wasn't the best example. So I pretty much joined the Marine Corps because I didn't want to be associated with, whatever he did in the Army and stuff like that. So, and actually, that's not even entirely correct because that's all I knew was the Army. So when I graduated high school, I went to the Army recruiter because that's all I really knew. And as I was filling out the paperwork, the basic paperwork to join the Army, I was sitting outside, and my recruiter was like average dude. His shirt was kind of untucked, looking like crap. And I remember filling out the basic stuff, and I look up, and this huge black Marine, like I'm talking about like 6'2", just ripped, and his uniform was crisp, and walked right by him, and he goes, "How you doing?" And then he just went back into his office, and I was like, "Holy crap! Where do I go to look like that?" So I literally put the paper and the pen on the chair real quick, and I went right into his office, and I was like, "Hey, what are you guys?" You know what I'm saying? Like, well, this is the Marine Corps. He's like, "Have you signed anything with that guy?" I'm like, "No, I'm just filling out the basic paperwork." He's like, "Have a seat." And he got me from there because, that dude looked freaking awesome in his uniform. He was jacked. So, and that was it. Joined the Marine. He showed me some cool video, of the recon video, something that I would know that I wouldn't even try out for, but it looked cool. I was 19, and I was like,
I like face paint. Hell yeah.
Pretty much. I'm like, yeah, that's cool, whatever. So, yeah, joined the Marine Corps. That was it.
Yeah, how many years did you do?
I only did 4 years active duty.
Yeah.
So what was crazy is there was 13 of us that signed up to join the Marine Corps, and then September 11th happened.
Oh, yeah.
And I was still in the pulley program, which is like your previous where you get to work out with the, recruiters, and they're preparing you to go to boot camp. I was supposed to go to boot camp in October. Well, September 11th happened. And, I still remember watching, on the video, like both planes already had hit, so I didn't get to see the live second one, but both, and we were sitting there, and I remember we were running, and our recruiter came, after us, the second one, says, "Hey, man, come inside now." And we were just watching, and I remember just watching the smokes coming out from the TV of the two buildings and stuff, and then I actually saw one of the buildings collapse, and they just fell. And so 13 of us were slotted to go to boot camp. Only 3 of us went because the other 10 were like, "Oh, I want to go to college," and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And they were just like, and they were scared, obviously, because they thought "Oh, man, I signed up for college, and now there's an actual war." And I was like, to me, I joined for infantry, so there was no shocker there, where I was going to go. So, and that was it. My recruiter was pretty upset, though. He was just like, dude, it's like, he told one guy, he's like, "I will make sure that when they look up your name, it says coward in the dictionary." Because, what I'm saying, from bailing out just because the excuse of that happened. And that's why he was upset. And then he was upset because he was LER, Light Armor Recon, which is basically the mobile. He gets to ride around in a tank and do reconnaissance for the infantry guys. And he was upset because he was stuck in his B billet. He couldn't get out because he knew people were going to deploy. So he was like, he called the sergeant major. He's like, "You tell me what I got to do. I will punch a recruit right now in the face to get me out of this place." And he couldn't. He missed it. He missed the invasion.
Whenever I don't know if you're, not to talk down to you or anything, but I don't know, but whenever you probably explain a little better being active, but whenever you do a certain amount of time, you have to go do like a secondary duty. One of those is recruiting. So you get a lot of bad dudes like that who want to go out there and
so if you're going to do career in the military, you have to do what they call a B billet, which basically is like you can't just stay in your MOS, meaning your job. Yeah. So they're like, if you want to progress and pick up rank, you have 2 choices. You can be a recruiter, a drill instructor, or a firearms instructor at boot camp. Yeah. So those are the 3 billets that you can do. And once you do one of those 3, then that sets you off to pick up rank when you're done.
I would want to be a drill instructor.
That is the hardest school because you start over. You're a sergeant, and you're literally going through. They're putting you through boot camp as a sergeant, and then it's even tougher because you have to now teach and emulate the same thing. Man, it's brutal. Yeah. I don't know if I want to do that.
Yeah, I always thought it would be badass until I spent some time talking to Wallace, and the way he would explain their schedule and their day in day out. Dude, forget that.
It's brutal. You're talking about if you make it, you're talking about you just graduated a class at 6 o'clock the very next morning. You got a brand new class to teach that you're slotted to, and those are when I was in, it was literally 3 months.
Yeah.
So you're talking about you are married to those recruits for 3 months. There's no off time. If you're one of the 3 top hats,
I need to put in vacation time.
yeah, none of that.
Nope. And there's at least one of them that sleeps in the squad bay with you at all times.
Yep, senior drill instructor. Yep. So they do rotations. The 3 hats, they do rotations of who sleeps in the SWAT bay. So you obviously you have your own little personal, but you're sleeping with the recruits.
Yeah.
I mean, not
sleeping with them, but in the same barracks.
right.
Huh.
Same building.
Okay, yeah, I passed.
Yeah.
Although they do find some time to have fun because they do occasionally come in smelling like whiskey and haze people at 1 in the morning.
It's true. It is true. I mean, when I was in, there was a lot of funny things that happened to me. I mean, I got fired from being squad leader so many times just because I had no bearing. I had no bearing whatsoever. Bearing meaning like I couldn't they tell you to instead of attention. Bearing means like you just don't let nothing phase you, so you look straight. Yeah, I laughed at everything, and they did it on purpose. So they would find the guy who couldn't control himself, and they would deliberately say things on purpose to try to break you because that's another way of you going to get hazed. Like the quarter deck is just a spot that they say, "Oh, good, you're nasty. Go ahead and go over there," and you get hazed, man. But I was set up for failure at boot camp. I had recruit Smitty who had a lazy eye, and then I had recruit Chakaya right in front of me, which the dude was straight out of Africa, and he was freaking 6'4". I mean, cut, chiseled, whatever. So I don't even know if you can air this, but I'm gonna say it anyway because it's funny. So when we were staying at attention, day 1 of boot camp, they strip you naked. It's a humiliation thing. So you are all freaking butt naked, just standing at attention. It's embarrassing.
Like no draws,
like no draws, no nothing. Just because they're doing it by everything is done by the numbers. So what you're instilling is the discipline that
very intimate.
Yeah, boot camp is very like intimate. Okay, so they are like, okay, take your shirt off. All right, sir, take your clothes. Oh, you didn't do it fast enough. Put it back on. So they play all these stupid games. Eventually, we were all naked, staying at attention because we're about to go take a shower. And as the drill instructors are all walking by to inspect. Chakaya, who's in front of me from Africa, this dude I'm talking about has almost pissed myself laughing. How do you tell me how you keep a straight face just like that?
Oh no, okay? You don't. We're gonna do some push-ups.
And then recruit Smitty, who had a lazy eye, it was involuntary, he had no control. So in boot camp, they tell you, aye, sir, you're like, click, and that means they're asking for you to look at him, and you look, and then he goes, front, you're like, sir, and you look front. Well, a drill instructor would literally walk by him on purpose, and the eye would still be moving, and he goes, "What I tell you about locking your eyes? Why is it still moving?" "It is, sir." I was like, "No, look at it. That is still moving back and forth." And I am like, I'm literally I'm biting my tongue, I'm biting whatever. And my drill instructor is like, "And look at Recruit Rodriguez. He thinks it's hilarious. You have a eye." Oh man, come on. You cannot. They do it on purpose. So
you just tape it down and you start doing your jumping jacks.
Oh man. Oh, well, going back to Chakaya, this dude literally had to wear sweats the entire time at boot camp because the shorts that we were given, so we're running. The Marine Corps is about uniformity. If one person is sticking out, somebody is going to start screaming at somebody because why does somebody have special treatment? So we're all running. We all have shorts. He's wearing sweats. Obviously for obvious reasons. So there's a first sergeant who has nothing to do with our freaking platoon, says, "Hey, stop that platoon right gosh damn now." And we're like, so we stop, attention, tells our senior drill instructor, who's a staff sergeant, goes, "Come here, why is everybody wearing shorts and this one right here is wearing sweats? What makes him so special?" And everybody in the platoon is literally about to crack and smile. From the corner of my eye, I see the staff sergeant go to the first sergeant's face, whisper in his ear, and he's just like, pss, pss, pss. And then he's like, "You gotta be shitting me." "Carry on, devil dogs, carry on." And we just kept walking. I'll never forget that. See, it's always the stuff that you like, the funny stuff that you always remember. Don't get me wrong, boot camp sucked, but you had to find the humor in it. And I was strong because I got hazed all the time because I couldn't stop laughing. It was hilarious. And they knew it. They literally were like, "Here, take Rodriguez with you because he's gonna laugh anyway." That's what they used to say all the time. So, all right.
That's funny.
Man, I think about you in a Marine Corps environment. It just makes me laugh.
Can you imagine doing that now? There's no way people can get away with the stuff that I saw at boot camp now.
Oh, I was about to say, so that's not every class.
Well, not after
that's
that.
Like its own universe.
Well,
man.
you remember that? I don't know if you keep up with their times, but that one dude that got charged, a staff NCO, he threw one of the recruits in the laundry or in the dryer and turned it on. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And it was
if you do
fun.
that, you
it
might
was
get in trouble.
funny, but it was bad. But he was doing it more because he was like the dude happened to be of Arab descent, and he kept making jokes of
shit.
you're trying to infiltrate, my Marine Corps, and they just took it to another level where it was just like, bro, you can't do that.
Yeah, no.
So you're crossing the line on that.
I do think that if you tell someone, hey, there's a line, most people are going to assume that line is prior to putting someone in a dryer.
Correct.
And
I would agree.
Yeah, I also never saw that.
I would agree.
Now hit preheat.
Yeah, it makes no sense whatsoever. Yeah. So,
Oh man.
So that had to have been an interesting environment as far as training in the months after. Did you still leave in October?
oh yeah, I still left. Yep,
Okay.
still left. Mm-hmm.
I didn't know if they pushed things back or adjusted anything. That had to be interesting because y'all were training. Obviously, you're like, okay, this is a different environment. This is no longer garrison. We're training you up for wartime now. But I imagine not a lot of people knew what that was going to look like yet. We got the Rangers in pretty quick.
So I think it was
afterwards.
SF dudes that went into Afghanistan and did stuff like that. So
Okay.
yeah. So because that's what they were saying, they were like it was all involved in them. So they started doing that stuff in the beginning. And what was sad is that when I went through infantry school and everything through boot camp, we were still training tactics from the Vietnam era because we were still going into the field and hiding in the woods and doing ambushes and all the old school stuff because we weren't sure if we were, because remember, they just sent a bunch of people to start bombing stuff and, secret whatever. So we weren't sure if we were going to go into Iraq. Yeah. And then in 2003 is when they were like, hey, Bush at the time said, hey, I'm going to, start sending troops over there and we're going to take care of this. And even then, we still didn't even know if it was going to be real because we were slaughtered. I was in 2nd Battalion, 8th Marines, and we were trying to go to Okinawa to relieve 3-8. But they said, hey, man, we're not going to Okinawa. We're going to Iraq. And we got on ship. And even then, it was crazy because every moment that they kept saying we were going, we felt like it was going to be like the Desert Storm, where we go, get all dressed up, and then it became a tank war, and it wasn't really war. So and then we come back, and we're like, oh, we were there, but we didn't do anything. So that was the feeling. Even on ship, we did like a grid square in the middle of the ship because we weren't sure if we were going to cross that line. They were still negotiating, they were still talking, and then we got closer, and then we went to Kuwait. Got out in Kuwait, made these little 1,000 grid square camps where it was like tents and sand, and then even then we're over here playing baseball, in the middle of the sandbox and just still feeling like it's a training thing, and we were doing as best as we could close quarter stuff because even we didn't do a lot of CQB, because we were still training Vietnam tactics, and then it got real when they were like, hey, they gave that 48-hour notice, hey, either Saddam and your son surrender or I'm sending troops in, you have 48 hours. And even then I'm just like, the 48-hour talk, politics, blah, blah, blah. And then, because you know how it is, everybody always talks the thing and then we're hurry up and wait. Yeah. So then we get there, they say, hey, 40 hours are up. Pack your stuff, we're crossing the borders. And even then, it still didn't hit me because we're all, you're talking about 18 Marines, packed in like a 7-ton, like a bunch of sardine cans. I mean, we had packs and sandbags blocking the front, and then we're just sitting there like this, as we're going. We cross the border of Kuwait and Iraq, and even though we made it into Iraq, it still didn't feel real. Like, it's still like, oh, here we go. We're just going to, just go in there, set up a base camp or something and wait. So we were driving, and then all of a sudden when we hit Nasiriyah, man, there was nothing more like it's like, hey, this is no longer a drill, this is real. Yeah. When I saw the Cobras come over us, and they just started sending tow missiles into the city from like a mile away, and you could see them, boom, boom. And you're like, okay, this is no longer, this is not training, this is real.
A little tight.
This is no longer training. I looked at my boys, I'm like, all right, boys, this is not training no more. Yeah. And we went from there. So.
Yeah. How long were you over there total?
So the first deployment was 7 months.
Yeah.
We did our little thing there, came back, and then I did a second tour in Iraq in Fallujah. That was 9 months. And that was the first time that they started lasting, because Marines don't deploy longer than 6 months when it comes to a combat zone, so they can rotate other units so they don't burn out. But since people were getting out because they were like, forget this. I did 2 tours in a 4-year period, and dudes were getting burnt out. So they were giving like bonuses to try to keep people in. So the second deployment that I went, they basically said, hey, this is going to be a 9-month. They approved to stay 9 months. So I stayed 9 months in Fallujah at that time. So
you said they can give you a bonus to stay in. Can you negotiate your contract? Like if they go, hey, KD, stay for, we'll give you $10,000. Be like, no, I'll make it 30 and I'll stay.
Nah, whatever the bonus is what they give. But at that time, people were leaving so fast. Like the average bonus that that infantry guys would get was like $5,000 to re-enlist. That's it. Yeah. But but because of the war, we had a multiple of 5, which came out to be $30,000, which was unheard of because you don't give $30,000 for an infantry guy. There's like those are a dime a dozen, you know what I mean? And dudes were getting $30,000 to re-enlist another 4 years. And it was tax free in the overseas if you did it overseas. Yeah. So
there were several years ago they were offering like it was an absurd amount. I want to say it was like in the $60,000 or $70,000 range to go recon.
Really? I believe
they were hurting for guys. They couldn't get anybody to sign up for it.
I believe it.
Did you ever? Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Did you ever come across one of those camel spiders?
Yeah, actually more in Kuwait. We came across them in Kuwait, not so much in Iraq.
Were they as big as everybody say they are?
I mean, they make it. I mean, you could. I'd say bigger than my hand. I would say bigger than my hand, but that's pretty big for a spider. Come on now,
right? Yeah.
That's pretty big for. You see something like this? Yeah, you're not trying to play games.
No, it's time to run.
So yeah.
Did you ever shoot in? I'd have shot mine. I'd shot him.
I mean, it wasn't chasing us. What the thing is that it chases shadows. It's not really chasing you. So that's but this one just happened to be they'd be more near the porta johns and stuff. So everybody was always careful like their porta john and stuff. But I mean, there was some gunfire shots in the middle of the night that you would be like, what the heck? I just shoot a camel spider or saw something they didn't like.
Oh, that's funny.
So that's how I feel about snakes. Hey. I'll write that paper all day long. I'll shoot a snake right in the face. Yeah. I'm not playing games. I can't stand snakes.
Oh, man. All right, so you do the Marine Corps, the infantry, a couple tours in Iraq. You said you got out after 4 years, but I know was not the extent of your military-ish career, I guess. What did you do after you got out?
So when I was a Marine and I was in Fallujah, I met some contractor dudes that were like, hey, man, you could do the same job and get paid way more money, and I was like, hell yeah. I mean, they had the Gucci gear. They were driving in up-armored Mercedes-Benz, which were like, $200,000. They looked bad. And I was like, heck yeah, I want to do them. You know what I'm saying? Sign me up. So I got out. They gave me whoever I had to send my resume. So the first company I joined was the DynCorps at the time where they had high threat protection, it was called. And they were pretty awesome. Now they're company, but they were awesome back in the day. But they never deployed because they were trying to get the Baghdad contract for the embassy in Baghdad. Yeah. And Blackwater at the time, named Blackwater, they took that. So they had us holding on the shelf. So then I had a buddy of mine who was working for Triple Canopy and said, hey, man, we're looking for dudes that have combat experience and they're already high threat certified through State Department. And I was like, well, I already have that certificate. So I was like, cool. So, I called the recruiter. Recruiter said, hey, man, if you pass our 2-week in-doc with Triple Canopy, we'll deploy you right after. We're not holding you. I'm like, all right, cool, let's go. And so working with Triple Canopy was a huge eye-opener of basically from Marine Corps style. Thank goodness that I had enough sense that when I saw excellence of people, I just shut up and I didn't try to act cocky. I didn't try because Marine Corps teaches you to be cocky and always but these dudes you're talking about, Triple Canopy was a CAG founded organization, which means Delta Force. That's like the highest level special forces in the Army. You don't hear nothing about them because that's how they want it. You don't go try out for them. They recruit you and ask you to try out for them. You just can't submit a resume for that kind. That's how elite those guys are. So that's a foundation. So I was just like, man, I'm just lucky that they're giving me an opportunity. And I mean, their training, their shooting was a whole nother level. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And just some dudes that didn't make it is because they weren't looking for dudes that were like the top to the top. They were looking for dudes that can actually like follow directions. You know what I mean? Like they want to make sure you're capable of shooting all that stuff, but they want to make sure that you're also a thinker and not just a hey, take the hill kind of thing. Yeah. Right. So it was pretty intense.
Which is generally not conducive to the Marine Corps.
Correct.
The Marine Corps very much wants you to go up there.
Correct.
I might die. Yeah, but go up there. Okay.
Pretty much, which is sad, but yes, you're right. You're right.
So as far as the money though, like, how does that work? Because I hear all these guys know if you go overseas, do the contract work, the money is tax-free.
So the way it actually worked back then, it was if you're out of the country 330 days out of the year, only at that time it was like 110,000 was tax-free. The rest gets taxed. But if you have a family, doesn't work because I can't, not come back home for 330 days. That means you can only be back in the States for 30 days out of the entire year. Oh, because the rotations we had was 105, 35. So 105 days in country, 35 days off, which wasn't really too bad, And some guys would take their families to try to fit that. They would fly their families to, overseas, like to England or some, country that's not in the United States, and that's how they would keep their taxes, in check. And even then, the IRS really didn't know how to tax it because they didn't realize that because a lot of dudes were going under their credentials because when you were earlier you would have credentials of like a GS-12, so you were like a colonel in the in the military. So they were thinking you were still in the military. So a lot of dudes got a lot of their money tax free. Yeah. Then the IRS wised up and basically audited 7 years to a bunch of dudes in Blackwater, and they had to pay like hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes. Yeah. Sucks.
Send me to jail. Let me sit next to Wesley Snipes.
Yeah, it was terrible.
I ain't paying that.
It was terrible.
He died.
I don't know.
No, he didn't? Okay.
Wesley Snipes?
Yeah.
No, he's definitely alive.
He's paying taxes now, too.
All right, so do all that super cool sounding stuff. Did you have a family during any of that?
Had a family the entire time.
Oh, really?
How was it?
It was rough. It was rough. I mean, I had 2 marriages. I got divorced twice. So, my first marriage, I had 3 daughters.
I forgot that. I wasn't trying to bring up.
No, you're good.
Okay.
You're good. 2 marriages, and I mean, it is tough. It is tough. You know what I'm saying? Like, with all being said, I don't regret what I did. Because, my daughters, yes, we have the conversation of like, yeah, it's good for for you to be there for your kids. But also I've lived in being broke. I've lived the buying Payless shoe store, buying, hand-me-down clothes, going to the freaking, Salvation Army to get your clothes. I've lived that. Yeah. I want my kids to live better than me. Yeah. So I don't regret being gone from their life because my kids at 12 years old had an iPhone. I never got an iPhone when I was a kid. You know what I'm saying?
I still don't have one.
But I mean, or just a cell phone in general. So I definitely.
You just learned what it was.
my daughters didn't want for nothing. They lived a great life. They had everything. My daughters have like 2 pairs of Jordans that I never even owned a pair of Jordans in my entire life. So they lived good. And so I don't regret it. Do I miss the fact that I missed a lot in their life? Yeah. Absolutely. In fact, that's one of the reasons why I became a cop. Because as I was contracting, my oldest daughter, Ariana, she was a freshman in high school, and I was going to go again contracting, and she said, "Hey, I'm going to go to college in 4 years, and you've missed most of my life, and I'd like to establish a relationship with you," and I was just like. Ooh, when your freshman daughter, tells you, like, has that adult talk, I'd be like, what? You're right. I have to. So that's when I started applying for police departments. So.
All right, you said departments. Let me hear them. Where all did you apply?
So I started applying. I went to Irving. I went to Euless. I went to Colleyville. And the first one was Fort Worth. And Fort Worth, I actually went through the interview and everything. And at the time, being a contracting is awesome when you're contracting. Yeah. But because of depending on who's in presidency in the seat, you can have you can like lose the contract for 3 months at a time. So if you don't properly save money, you could be not working and not making money for 3 months. Right. You know what I'm saying? That sucks, especially when you're paying bills. Some of these guys lived like the rock star lifestyle because they could until you lose the job and now you're like, crap, Right. So at that time when I was going to Fort Worth, I went through all their process. I went through their interview process. But they were like, okay, so this is your pay. The pay was gonna be $3,000 a month, while you're in the academy, and then you get like $1,000 up when you finish. Yeah. Man, I had $5,000 worth of bills a month just on from my home and my family, stuff like that. And I was like, I can't afford that. So I told him, I said, well, I'm gonna make a decision. I'm gonna go back to Afghanistan and pay off all my debt, as a contractor, and then come back. Well, they didn't want me to wait, so I was like, all right, well, sorry, bye. Yeah. And I did that. And then I came back in like 2018 doing I did work for Energy Transfers, which was like an oil company that the time at the oil rigs were being messed with up in North Dakota, South Dakota. Remember that time? Yeah. So I did a couple contracts up there. It was pretty fun.
Who was messing with them?
What's that?
Who was messing with them?
The Indians and the liberals from California coming over saying, you're hurting our, it was a big thing for a while. Yeah. And that was kind of fun. Cold as hell. Let me tell you, Montana and freaking South Dakota, you can have that. They look beautiful in the summer, but you can have that cold. When I drove, funny story, when I applied for Grand Prairie, because I never even heard of Grand Prairie, but I know I'm kind of all over the place, but my buddy, who was a cop, and he was also a Marine and a contractor, he told me, hey, man, if you really want to be a cop, come join Grand Prairie, because, they're basically big boy rules, and they let you be a cop. Like, they'll let you chase and stuff like that. So he's a cop at Farmers Branch telling me to come to Grand Prairie, and I'm like, okay, I'll give him a shot. And so when I went to take the test, so that Saturday, I took the test, took the PT test. I looked around, I was kind of impressed. I saw Lawless, Carrasco, Slater. They all looked, fit. And actually, Sergeant Pratt was there at the time too. And I was like, okay, these guys look pretty lean. They're not, because you had fat dudes running the PT test, and I'm like, come on, man, how are you going to tell people to freaking pass this PT test, and you're about to have a heart attack if you were to jump this fence? Yeah. So the Grand Prairie looked good. I was impressed. We did the stuff, and then when I passed everything, they gave me my history packet. I drove 22 hours from that moment to Montana because I was still working for the oil company, and I'm telling you what, Montana, that sucked. My truck at the time, I saw negative 33 degrees. Oh, and I thought my freaking thermostat was broken. And it was like, nope, it was definitely 33 degrees. It was brutal. I had to get new spark plugs, a new battery. I didn't even know what cold crank amps was. Yeah. It's basically it's the electric charge that your battery needs to turn the car on to warm it up. It was so cold, I didn't have enough cold crank amps to turn my car on. So I had to replace the battery. Because, it's a Texas truck. We don't need that crap. So I had to change the battery. It's like a $150 battery for my truck to be able to turn on at negative 15 degrees in the morning, to go to work. And then all my spark plugs had to be high-end spark plugs because it was cold. Yeah. And then I didn't even know that diesel fuel gels up, that you got to get a engine block heater. So when I worked with the guys at the oil rigs, all the contractors who were like the surveyors, they were at the hotel. They had freaking extension cords coming from their hotel connected to their trucks because apparently diesel fuel gels up at a certain temperature and it'll mess up your truck. So you need a block heater to keep it warm so when you turn your truck on, it's not gelling through your engine. I didn't even know that.
No idea.
That tells you right there, you should not move there.
Yeah,
right.
When a fuel can't handle it because of the temperature, it's time to bounce.
Or get a horse.
Or get a horse. Exactly.
I disagree with that.
I will actually say, though, the meat there was delicious. Steak and buffalo meat is phenomenal. The best. My goodness. Bison was amazing. Yeah. And then the actual steak, because that's what they breed up there, is literally awesome cattle. Right. And man, I don't eat my meat rare, but the guy was like, I don't serve it other than just rare. And he goes, but just trust me. So he and then he gave it to me. It was the best meat I have ever eaten in my entire life. It was phenomenal.
I'm not laughing at you. Matt laughed at you, and then now it made me laugh at
you. Okay.
So now when I see him, that's what I'm going to think of. What up, bro?
Oh, man.
Oh.
Do you eat your meat rare now?
No. Only Montana. I eat mine medium rare.
Medium.
I do a medium rare, that's it. Yeah. Especially if it's a good restaurant.
That's appropriate, yeah.
But up there, I'll do it rare all day.
Yeah.
The meat was phenomenal.
Did you see any brown bears?
No, I didn't see any brown bears. Yeah. Not many. I didn't see any bears, actually.
No. Montana grizzlies, they're supposedly everywhere.
No, I didn't see any.
How long did you do that for?
That was about 2 years.
Golly.
2 years. So I was in the process
I forget how old you are sometimes.
Dude, I'm telling you, man. I look young, but I got some miles in my body. I'm telling you. But it's funny because when I instruct, like even when I was with Triple Canopy, I did a year instructing. Came back home, went to Louisiana, and it was crazy because dudes that were coming in and I was certifying them to go overseas, they would look at me like, "What's this dude gonna teach me?" I'm like, whatever age. Right. So then I have to like. I'm as an instructor, I'm telling them what I've done, how many years, blah, blah, blah. And then they're looking at me like, how could you do that all in the time frame with the age that you are? And they don't realize that I'm literally older than what I look.
Yeah.
So, and then I tell people how many kids I got, and I got a 19-year-old daughter, and they're like, how old are you?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's awesome.
So, you're in Montana. You go straight from Montana to here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, how easy was it when you got the call to go be a cop in Texas to leave Montana and go be a cop in
So it was a little easier. I mean, it was still contracting. I didn't live in Montana. I was just coming back and forth. But when he said, "Hey, you're good to go," Grand Prairie worked with me because they treated me like an out-of-state applicant.
Oh, cool.
Just because of the fact that I worked in Montana, so they helped me out. So I did all my interview, my psych, everything within the week, and then that was it. And then, it was real. And then I started working out a lot harder.
Yeah.
Because at the time I was 38 years old, and I'm like, man, I got to keep up with these young bucks, and I can't friggin', and I'd say that it was, every time I go to a new place, I try to like just be humble and act like the new guy, just like in the military. Anywhere you go, no matter where you come from, just be humble, just do your thing, because if you go in there with a, puffy chest and I already know things, you're going to fail. Yeah. So, but it was very tough because I was working with children pretty much, like I got 24-year-olds that their first big boy job was this. Yeah. And, it was a struggle because we're going through the academy. And, at the time, Sergeant Lawless was our academy coordinator. And he'd be like, hey, polish your boots and press your uniform, And dudes would still come up and look like crap. And I'm like, hey, man. When he says that, it wasn't a suggestion. It was a order, bro. So and then you're mad when you're getting hazed because of the fact that you're not blousing you're not polishing your boots. Yeah. And it's just like.
And you're angry because you can't take them to the quarterdeck.
Correct. And I can't for you just choke slam them and be like, this is what it's So, but yeah.
Yeah, you're not taking care of your uniform. You don't deserve one. Strip down. Yeah. Stand at attention.
Outside in the rain.
I always want to do this.
But
how was that as far as having the experience that you had and then adjusting to not just obviously I imagine the training environment was, I would imagine, just annoying pretty much.
In a nutshell, it was pretty annoying. There was a couple times where it was just because they obviously they made me a squad leader, right. So I was a squad leader. Most of the majority of us, there was only one dude that was a civilian that was a squad leader, and then the other two were military, and then our class leader, he was military. So it was we kind of helped out, and it was good to work with the military because we all had the same mindset and we knew what the mission, how to play the game. Yeah, it was just trying to get the others to do the same thing. Right. And I'm not saying all of them were bad. Not all of them were bad. It was just a mindset that they didn't understand. They was something new. You know what I mean?
Well, it's a completely unique thing that training militaristic type of mindset to get someone into when you can't go to the extremes of the Marine Corps or something.
Correct.
Because there it's easy.
Right.
It's like, hey, you have nothing. You don't eat unless I say you get to eat.
Correct.
Whereas working on the 5, there's a certain level of propriety you have to maintain. That's why I imagine. Knowing you like I know you, imagining you in that environment, it would have just it makes me laugh thinking about it.
Well, we got punished for a lot of things that was like it's just simple stuff, Like one guy, I won't say his name, but Sergeant Lawless said, "Hey, you guys can go out to eat, grab what you want to get out, in the restaurant, but don't wear anything that says you're a police officer because you're not police."
Which is a universal rule.
Which is basically black shirt. He specifically said, because that's the thing about Sergeant Lawless at the time, and even in the military, you get specific instructions so you don't be like, well, did he really mean that or what I cannot do? It literally said black shirt, brown pants, that's it. Go get your food, come back. That's it.
Simple.
Yeah, simple. Too easy. You can't mess that up.
Is this guy still here?
Freaking was the problem child the whole time.
Yeah.
We won't say why.
I heard his name so much.
It was terrible.
I never saw him, I don't think.
So after Sergeant Lawless said, "Hey, this is the uniform that you go eat." Cool. Everybody understood that. He shows up to freaking Chipotle. Mind you, the Chipotle that's literally across the street from the PSB where most officers go to eat.
Right.
So he goes there with his vest and his gun belt with a blue gun in the holster, looking like he's some type of operator or something, waiting in line to get his food. So guess who gets a phone call, because there's other officers there that called Sergeant Lawless and said, hey, did the uniform change when the recruits can go out to eat? And he's like, no. He goes, well, you got a awesome operator standing in line with his freaking vest, gun belt, and a blue gun in the holster. Man, I'll never forget this. Steppy was teaching us the traffic portion of our class, and I just saw Lawless walk in. He goes, hey, sir, just hold on one second. Get outside now. And I already knew by his tone of voice we were going to get effed. I already knew it. I already knew it. Drill instructor came out of him, and we were getting hazed for about an hour, and we're doing flutter kicks and all these other crap. And as we're doing it, he's just saying, so what is the uniform that I told y'all that you do when you go out to eat? And we were like, black shirt, tan pants. It's like, who went out? Like, who did it?
Yeah.
You know, and it was him. It was him, and that was the frustration.
It's almost like, are you doing it on purpose? Like, is this just a joke?
Well, that dude was a character. Like, he should have never made it through the whole, because he was showing signs at the academy, but obviously that's higher above my chain of command. Why he continued on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I even had an FTO. Like, I got screwed because of him, because I was older, so I had the when I went through, I finished the academy and I went through OIT, I feel like, a lot of my FTOs, they gave me the respect of like knowing that I was not just a 24-year-old. They knew the knowledge that I had, and they just addressed the things that I struggled with. But my tactics and my officer safety were on point because of the military. So I had a little bit less, I had a little more leeway, I had a little more leeway at the time where they're not like micromanaging me. Yeah. Like the report writing, that was a whole nother concept. But that was a whole nother concept. We can talk about that here in a second if you like. We can talk about this in a second. But so I got a lot of leeway with because I had pretty good, sound tactics on what I did. But because of that, I got traded by a lot of FTOs. Like I had 5-6 different FTOs because of the fact that they had to go somewhere else, and I had Officer Boron on my third phase. I think it was third phase. And I only had him for 2 weeks because he had to go and take care of Cisneros and make the final call on him. So I feel like I was robbed, an extra 2 weeks to learn stuff from, Officer Boron.
Oh, 2 weeks is all he had to
get.
That was it.
There was some good stories with him too. I had a lot of good stories with a bunch of my FTOs, so it was pretty good. It was pretty good. So
I actually trained him.
Yeah, he was my first phase.
Yeah.
What?
First phase, yep.
Yeah.
How was it?
It was. I mean, any
be
first
honest.
any
I'm
first
6 years.
phase,
I've done it.
any first phase training is highly stressful. But with him, it was stressful in a different type of way. It was because we sat down and we started. You did a very good job of being humble as far as like not I did X, Y, and Z. But I always like to, especially military guys. You're older than me, so it's like, okay, you've been around the block, and we sat down, we started chatting, and we were driving very, very early. He's like, yeah, I would enlisted in the Marine Corps, and it was like, I think you mentioned that you're supposed to ship in like October of 01, and I was like, and me being a math whiz, I'm like, oh, like you were very, very early. You probably did a lot. And so we went up catching up on some of your history. And so I think we had kind of that rapport where it's like, you're not a child. But he was interesting because he told me very early on, he's like, you're going to get really frustrated with me with, kind of, I don't know if it was navigation.
No, I told you that, hey, listen, man, when it comes to going to the fight, when it comes to like anything that involves like hands-on, you'll never have to worry about me.
Right.
But the whole paperwork part and like, because I didn't know the city either. Yeah. So I was like, hey, listen, man, I don't want to be a liability to anybody. So if somebody needs help, please tell me where to go, and we'll figure it out later. But I need to get to the fight fast because I'd hate for somebody to die or be hurt because I didn't know where I was going because I'm new. Yeah. But then I told him, I said, but when we start writing this out and in report, you're probably going to be upset.
Help me. And I was like, it's not going to be that because he's a well-spoken guy. He doesn't stumble over his words. His timeline gets a little mixed up sometimes, but.
It's a lot.
But I was like, nah. It's like, no. You can talk to people pretty early on, and a lot of people will say, yeah, when you get me into a physical confrontation, it's not going to be an issue. Because I was this or I was that. It's like, whatever. But you're one of the few guys that legitimately, not just the physical confrontation, but like actually, having to attack a door and get inside, like never ever once had a concern. But holy report writing, man, we I don't remember what the first one was. But and Matt, I forget the exact story Matt likes to tell, but your usage of commas. What, like you told me originally how much like I tend to use too many commas. I'm like, okay, there's worse things. Like you're typing in the right language. Like we're off to a good start. Man, I'm every 2 words. Every 2. And it just confused me. It did, and it made me. I went from like this is going to be the easiest freaking guy ever to I'm sitting there in the chair staring at him like I'm gonna have to assault him at some point. We had a good time though. It was a good time. I had to rewrite a couple reports.
Yeah,
whenever they were on the more important side, but.
Well, the thing is, to me, is like, I have a bachelor's degree. I did go to college, but the thing is that I read stuff. I have to I need an example, like taking a weapon, just playing with it back and forth and taking it apart, re-putting it together, and now it becomes muscle memory. So what I did to make myself better, and even some of the pointers he gave me when I first started, is like go to other people's reports on the same kind of call that you had and see how they wrote it. And that was my weapon to take apart, read, and in my example. And then so when I started doing that, that made my report way better, because before when I first did it with him, he's like, tell a story. So I'm like, okay. And my mentality on commas is like, so when you say something, the pause when you're trying to say something else. So I just started putting commas everywhere I paused. Totally took that out of context. And it just looked terrible
in his internal dialogue.
Like, sir, are you having a separate thought? Every 3 words, yes, it's a separate thought.
Oh, hey.
Man. No, you know what, bro? I struggled because where we came from, you could actually call and do it over the phone. So I did a whole bunch of phone reports. Okay. And then over here, like, no, we type everything. I'm like, okay, wait a minute.
God, they would have hated you. Like, so you were in El Paso? No, I was in New York.
Well, you just said. We was just talking.
Well, what's crazy with my reports, I read over it out loud. And I actually catch myself like, wow, I went from this to this, and there's no explanation how I got to this. I'm like, so I have to like, all right, let's fix that real quick.
And FTO, I'm sitting over your shoulders going.
Because it also took me a long time to finish, too.
Yes. Oh, my God.
So he's like, man, we get off in 5 minutes.
Dude, I started bringing for 2 hours. I think you were the first guy I started bringing books. Like, I ran, like.
You gave me, I still have your book that you gave me about the flight. There was like I forgot what the book was called. I still have it in my house. It's
obviously you read it.
Yeah,
you loved it.
Yeah. Well, I did read half of it, but
what book?
Oh man, what was it? It was something to do with like some dude that was like a Air Force, or I'm sorry, not Air Force, Air Marshal, Federal Air Marshal, and they were just something with a flight attendant that there was a terrorist group, blah blah blah. It was, man, I gotta give it to you back, but it was all right. See, the books that I read is like history.
Before I forgot it.
I love history as far as like military history, just to kind of kind of feed my own background and kind of know the history of the Marine Corps, history of like anybody that served in Vietnam and like World War II. I got at the Battle of the Bulge, I met somebody that was my stepson's coach. It was his grandfather. And he was like 92 years old. And I sat there. I missed my son's entire game because I talked to him because I was like, because when you meet somebody like that, it's an honor. Like that, when that dude dies, it's done and over with. So to be able to speak to somebody who was at that time, me being a combat veteran, him being a combat veteran, to understand and just be like, damn, man, that's insane.
Yeah.
Vietnam guys. I love talking to Vietnam guys because I'm humbled and I sit there and listen, because I'm gonna tell you right now, regardless of what I did in Iraq and everything that I saw, is nothing comparable to Vietnam and World War II. You're talking about dudes that were rushing, like he said, rushing machine gun bunkers to take it out. Hell no. We called air support. We had, assets that I can't even imagine being a 19-year-old private say, hey, here's a charge. Go throw it into that, machine gun bunker that's slaying your dudes, and you got one dude you're trying to dodge, bob and weave, and then try to take it out. That's insane.
The crazy thing for me is thinking about the D-Day anniversary just came up recently, It's like, I forget if it's a documentary or whatever, but I went up kind of deep dive. I always go down these rabbit holes. And, man, the situations those guys found themselves in where they would say, hey, like you talked about putting a charge on a machine gun nest, where they're going to give a charge to 5 guys.
Yep.
And they're going to say, hey, these guys are going to try to keep you all alive. They're going to do their best. We're really hoping one of you makes it through. And those guys did it, man. 17, 18, 19, 20 years old, they did it. And it was just, they call it the greatest generation for a reason, man. It still blows my mind. Like the social pressure for them was such that it was, if you didn't go, you were looked down on. And they looked down on themselves. I mean, the suicides that would happen because guys would be disqualified from service, it just, it still blows my mind to think about. But.
I mean, can you imagine, just take a picture of yourself, of like the movie Saving Private Ryan. When those dudes were sitting on those, what they like AAVs or the tracks where they're in the water, as they're going up to D-Day to the beach, and as you're getting closer, you're hearing bombs and gunfire, and all you're doing is sitting packed like a bunch of sardines, waiting for that latch to open up. And as soon as it latches up, if you happen to be the guys in the back, you're watching people get picked off and just cut, and you're just like, holy crap, to the point where you're jumping out to the sides. Then you got to get out of the water. Some of the dudes drowned because they had so much gear on them, that they drowned. And then you get on that beach, and dudes are just getting picked apart. Like, I can't even imagine that feeling on the beach like that. It's just insane.
And it's not, and it's that for sure for me, but it's the mentality of the guys leading up to that. Like I always see the footage of them like climbing down the netting to get to the crafts. And to me, that's even more awe-inspiring than the act. Because once you're in a situation, you're in a situation. You're out of luck. You're there. You're either going to make it or you're not.
Right.
But it's the ability to put yourself in that situation and to climb down those nets and man, it blows my mind. It really does.
Good example is that movie Hacksaw Ridge. You ever seen that movie?
I did, yeah.
That's a great movie. Great movie. I mean, they're climbing up. They're in Japan, and they're climbing up that ladder you're talking about, the rope ladder, just to get to the top. And dudes are just like, holy crap, But at the beginning of that movie, to speak on what you're talking about, the dude was almost going to get charged because he went in as a medic. And he didn't want to carry a gun, but he wanted to serve because 3 of his friends committed suicide because they were disqualified.
Yeah.
So they weren't even at the place, and they're trying to get to the place to serve for their country.
Yeah, so we've been talking for a long time. I'm not going to cut it off because we've got plenty to edit, I'm sure. But the adjustment going to, you get through training, you finish dealing with pogues like me trying to tell you how to do your job. The adjustment to actual police work, what was that like?
So at first, my mindset, like I didn't want to be a cop at first just because I had a bad taste in my mouth with cops because as a contractor, we had dudes that were cops and they try to come up and do our job overseas as contractors. Oh, okay. So most of them they were turds. They couldn't keep up with the shooting. They weren't good tactically. They were more of a liability. There was maybe onesies and twosies that were actually from New York and Florida and California that were on the SWAT team that were legit SWAT team guys. Yeah. So they had their stuff on point. So I didn't really understand, we had jokes about military versus cops, but when I became the transition to become a cop, it was a whole mind change as far as how much you guys have to think about, in order to do your job. So you're talking about, driving, looking at the call notes. If it's a hot call, you better know where you're getting there. And then when you get there, the notes say one thing, but when you actually get there, it's not exactly what's happening. So you can't just go in there, all right, show me where the gun's at. And it's like, it wasn't even a gun involved. They just said person with a weapon and they had a stick, you know what I'm saying? Or it was just 2 people just playing around. So you're going in there hot. And that's why, the civilian people are like, man, what are you overreacting? It's like, because you don't realize that's what you're getting on, you get the tone out and you're just like, oh my God, it's, the crap's hitting the fan. Let's get there quick, go, go, go. And then you're like, no, it's just 2 kids fighting and then somebody called it a weapon.
Some lady who's pissed off on the phone with 911 is like, he's got a gun because he said he had a gun 2 weeks ago. Correct. And then you get someone in your environment, well, hey, every time I've seen someone with a gun in the past 12 years, they've been trying to kill me.
Correct.
And then you don't have the reading call notes is a language of its own.
Yeah.
And you learn to read what the meaning is behind it, and you show up reacting how honestly most people would react.
Right.
Yeah.
But once you've answered 900 of those calls, you kind of learn to, that he has a gun. Be like, okay, what's your relationship to him? Why do you say he has a gun? What's the gun look like?
And that's the other aspect too. You can't just assume one thing. You go to so many domestic, violence calls. You can't just be like, well, he hit me. All right, cool. You're under arrest for assault family violence. Like, you have to take both into account first, because, and you have to, like, listen to the whole story. And then you realize there was one where I had to arrest the female because she was the aggressor, And, I mean, I'd say this job.
You arrest the people who call 911.
Yeah.
That's always funny.
Yeah. I mean,
I called.
I have a very high respect for officers now, in a sense, like, it's not what it looks like from the outside. So now I'm in the inside, and I'm like, man, that's a lot of stuff you got to deal with. And then I understand why people can be, I guess, cynical and resentful, and doing the job towards the public, because when you get the same call time after time, and you've been doing this job for 12 years straight, you get pretty upset, because it's like, man, this never changes. You're trying to do. I have no doubt in my mind, when people become a cop, they want to help people. You know what I'm saying? And the first 5 years, man, you're loving it. You're helping, you're putting bad guys in jail. But then you start getting the minute calls and the same people complaining and the same turds. So I can see how officers, after a 12-year, 15-year period, you're like, you know what? Enough's enough, man. I'm tired of dealing with this. You're the same dude every day. Maybe not the same guy, but it's the same situation every time. So you got to have that patience, and you got to have that mindset of like, hey, every day is a new day. Let's start fresh. And that's just me saying it 6 years in. Talk to me later when I'm in here 15 years. Yeah, 6 years will be in January. Yeah.
Dude, we're getting old.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's no rookie. Yeah. So, how do you get to working out and all that stuff? The BJJ stuff. How do we get there?
I haven't done BJJ in a hot minute, so I try to do it every once in a while.
No. Rumor has it.
We heard you were scared.
Yeah.
Definitely not scared at all. Definitely not scared.
Who was it that was saying he was getting embarrassed? I forget who it was. Somebody was saying you kept getting embarrassed, and you just couldn't bring yourself to show your face anymore.
Oh, Dombrowski, what a crap talker. Wow.
I'm just making things up.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
I'm inventing things.
I definitely was not embarrassed at all. I'm just tired of the, it takes a toll, man. I'm 42 years old, you know what I'm saying? And all these guys think they're going to be UFC fighters, and they're going in there like, I'm not trying to wrench my neck all the time, you know? Yeah, so it is what it is. I have enough, I already proved myself, I'm older, but I can still hang with the young bucks. I did Guns and Hoses, when I was 40, whooped the out of that guy.
So you are a blue belt.
I am a 2-stripe blue belt for about 10 years.
Is it like literally 10 years?
Literally 10 years. Yeah. I like the color. I just want to stick with it.
It's my favorite color.
It's better than purple.
It's true. It's true. So, I mean, I do have a goal. I would like to get my black belt by the time I'm 50. But it's just, and I'm making excuses. I probably could make time for it, but it just, there's so much stuff between SWAT and everything else that I got to do. It's just, and then my daughters, I got to see my daughters too. So,
sometimes the jiu-jitsu guys are like, where it's like,
pretty good.
I would go do it, but now you've asked me so many times, just no.
Where is he going with
this? I do care
this?
about my eternal soul, but you're big annoying at this point.
Well, and then it just sucks because when you the first month or 2 months when you go back because you're trying to be committed, you're just getting a beat down, and you realize your cardio sucks. Everybody in there's been doing it 5 days a week, so they're just working you, and you're just trying to survive. So you have to get through that first month, a month and a half of just continue, and you have to do it 3 times a week because doing it once a week, you're still not you're just catching a beat down. You're just helping everybody else get better, because
you could do like me and just do it twice a month.
And that's
die the whole time.
My goal eventually, when everything changes, if I can get things slow down, is 3 times a week. 3 times a week will get me to maintain, stay good cardio, stuff like that. So
nice. Where do you see your career going?
So right now, I enjoy being in patrol and I enjoy being on SWAT. I'd like to be an FTO. So again, I have the old school mentality. I don't want to just jump, certain things. I like to learn the job because I feel like you can't be an FTO if you only done this job for 2 years. You know what I mean? Or 3 years even. Or if this is your first big boy job, you should at least be here for 5 years working like, you know, at least I was 3 years on nights, changed the days, you know, but you have to be knowing this job. And even in 5 years, you still don't know everything. But
God, no.
if you can at least do 5 years on the streets, then you can somewhat know. And I want to be an FTO, not for them, but more for me, because now I have to force myself to put myself on calls that I normally wouldn't do by myself. And then I got to teach the person how to do that call. So that forces me to be like, I got to look it up and make sure I'm telling him the right stuff.
I don't think I'd lead with that on the FTO interview, though.
No,
like, I'm not doing this for them. I'm doing this for me.
Well, I mean, it's you learn yourself. Like you're teaching somebody, but you're also learning yourself. Absolutely. You know, because I mean, I don't do rape reports all the time. Right. So some things can fall within the cracks. But if I'm teaching somebody to take a rape report, now I have to look up all the stuff that requires to do a rape report. Right. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, no, it definitely makes you. I always heard it makes you a better cop. But yeah, it makes you better at just a lot of things in general. Teaches you patience for sure.
Absolutely.
But well, I think we've talked long enough. Hopefully, it wasn't too painful for you.
Nah, it was fun. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, it was a good time.
We'll see if it gets aired.
Oh, it will.
At the timer says 76. We're going to get into at 34. There's a bunch of random clips of different things.
Sorry.
Awesome. You didn't curse that much.
I was actually trying really hard.
Yeah, you did good. I'm impressed.
He was like, therapy is working.
All right, buddy. Well, I appreciate it, man. Before we do take off, I always give people the opportunity to kind of share words of wisdom. Do you have any or no?
As far as like just in the job and stuff like that?
Just a perspective to anybody else who might be from a similar background or not, but thinking about the job.
Man, like I said earlier, just, take one day at a time, because one day may not reflect. I mean, we didn't even talk about the time that I got shot at. That was a really good one as a police. Yeah, man.
That was. We can tell the story. I think we should not tell the story.
No? Okay. All right. I'll for the next podcast.
I know you and I.
But yeah, I would just take one day at a time and know that not every day is the same, and treat people, if you treat people with respect, they're going to treat you with respect. And that's one thing I've always, even me being as old as I am, I don't care if you're 19 or whatever age, I always address you as sir and ma'am until you show me that you're not receiving that, and I'll give you what you're giving me. Mm-hmm. So.
All right. I like training him. It was a fun time. All right, guys. Well, until next time.
Until next time.